Look, if you corner someone with NI at the top and ask them, like, do you plan your videos? Do you plan this and that? They're gonna probably say something like, no, I just kind of do things on the fly.
How do you plan a day when you have to shoot a video like that?
Oh, I don't plan. I don't plan. There's never a plan. I go out there and your plan is to capture whatever happens spontaneously.
And look, the old, simple-minded way to interpret this is that they're just peacocking. You shouldn't believe their liar words. But look, you're a smart cookie. I know, because you're listening to me. So there's a more nuanced way to understand this. Like, yes, there's something to the outside objective perspective, how other people might see someone with NI, they will be methodical in a certain way. At the same time, there's something to the subjective experience that for that individual, it's not gonna feel like planning.
Interesting, I was interviewing Peter McKinnon, who talked about his trip to Amsterdam with you. You both went out and did your vlogs, and you were very methodical. You knew what your shots were, you got it, bam, 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 you were done, and he was still trying to figure out his video.
By the time Peter starts, Casey's already done, right? So clearly Casey is doing something that's methodical or streamlined. So when Casey describes what is it that he's doing when he's shooting a video or planning a video, his introverted functions are not planning in the moment because they've already built the experience to know what to do. So your NI, you kind of like have a vision of how you want things to go. So the introverted functions, in the case of Casey, he has two of them, NI and TI, they get built over time. So every time he does a video, he describes this as that anytime something goes wrong or doesn't work, it's like, oh, damn, that didn't work. Next time, I'm gonna do something else. Or, oh, that didn't go in the way that I wanted to. Next time, I'm gonna make sure to do it differently.
You learn to shoot in the edit, and you learn to sort of write in the shoot, because you're out there like, what am I shooting? I should have thought about this. Why didn't I shoot that like this? And then the next day I do that. Repeat 800 times.
So Peter's probably going into the environment and he's like, I'm gonna let the environment speak to me. And it's like, oh, maybe if it doesn't speak to me, I won't do a video. And I've brought all my gear and who knows what gear I'm gonna use to shoot.
So what do you want to film today? Like, do you have your ideas? Like, do you know what you want to do? Like, can I help? I was like, yeah, I think, I don't know, maybe like I don't really know what's in plan or what's in stories. It's like, oh yeah, and he's like, oh bro, I've got this so streamlined. And we left and he went to an exact spot to do an intro that he already knew, and everything was very much mapped out in his mind. And he was able to execute, finish, film, do everything in that video, but with such, it was just so strategic. Like there was no time wasted.
Casey, on the other hand, is probably like, I'm gonna go in, the first thing I need to do, my process, my unconscious process is, I need the video topic. Video topic, I'm looking for a video topic. Okay, got video topic. Step 2, this is all unconscious, right? Because he's built his process over time. Part of that is stuff that you don't even see. It's like, I'm not gonna bring a bunch of lenses. I'm gonna bring one camera, I'm gonna bring one lens, because that's how I TI do things. Let's hear Casey describe his process.
This movie that I just finished today, it's about a fire hydrant. There's a leaky fire hydrant. There's collecting water in the curb. So some guy put goldfish in there. It's become this like unifying thing for the community. And I was like, how do I make an interesting movie about a fire hydrant? And I was like, I don't know. I shot sort of the intro and I was like, okay, cool, intro, what's next? I got to go out to the fire hydrant, to Brooklyn to find it. And I was like, how am I going to get there? And that was just an honest thought. And I was like, that's a good scene. And I was like, cool. And I made a little scene of me picking the motorcycle. And then I had to get the motorcycle out of here. And I couldn't get it in the elevator. And I was like, this is funny. Like, this is funny in real life. So I knew that I was filming this video. I didn't like sit down and be like, okay, what will be humorous is some physical comedy in the elevator with the motorcycle.
So typically the way that we think of planning, let's say if you're planning a video, it's like, okay, I have a script written. I have a shot list. I'm gonna shoot the video here. And then I'm gonna do this. And I'm gonna say that. That is very operational, detailed way of planning. And that's exactly what someone with NI is trying to avoid, because they want to have a way of doing things that no matter what sensory scenario they're put in, they will have a way to deal with it. So that kind of specific type of planning, they're not doing that kind of planning. Who does that kind of planning? Number one, probably someone with sensory that actually wants something physical in a specific way. 2, someone who is introverted. Introverted is more likely to do that because they don't want to just like jump into a situation and see whatever happens. And lastly, probably anyone who has the function of SI is gonna want that kind of operational style list that we typically think of when we think of planning. Casey is a great example because he doesn't have all 3. He's intuition, he's an extrovert, and he doesn't have SI. Because the NI way of doing things, I think Ty Lopez also said this, is that you don't want a plan, you want a strategy.
A plan is not what you need. What you need is a strategy.
This is why if you have an introverted function at the top, it's hard for you to see it because you're not seeing what you're not doing.
this weird thing that was figuring out that story every day. A lot of it was just sort of like my own internal brain just running, being like, what am I capturing? What am I doing? How do I capture this? Where should the camera be? You can't communicate that. And the minute you have to externalize that, like instead of thinking the camera needs to be here and putting the camera there, I have to say the camera, John, needs to go there. And you say like this, and I say, no, not like that. And then I go and fix it. And then I think to myself, why didn't I just fucking put it there? I had to correct him.
But after 6 months or so, like,
no, there's no.
They'll
It
learn.
took me a lifetime to get there.
All right, my tour bus is leaving. I got to walk and talk. All right, lastly, looking at it from an objective personality lens, we know that blast, the animal of blast, is sharing your known information with other people. If you're doing that and you're talking, you're not planning what you're going to say. You're not writing a script, because over time, you've developed a narrowed down process to communicate with other people, and so that you can just open your mouth and you can talk, right? That shows you actually this kind of scripting and pre-planning is not what OI is, and it's especially not what NI is. An example of that is, so going back to like the 3 criteria that I said, that if you're sensory, you're going to plan this kind of like regular kind of planning, or if you are an introvert, you're going to do that kind of planning, or if you have SI. So comparing my process of making videos, I do like to script things. I like to know what I'm going to say, but then when I'm shooting, I'm just going to kind of go off the cuff. I'll like really try to understand what I'm trying to say, and then I'll go off the cuff.
I don't use teleprompters or scripts, but I'll have the idea refined in my head, and I'll sit there thinking, how do I say this?
Are you bullet pointing anything before?
Yeah, I mean, not bullet pointing's tough, but usually I'll just write down all those ideas in sort of an aggregate, and I'll read it back to myself 100 times until it makes sense in my head. Most of them I get with the first take.
If I compare myself to my compatriots, my colleagues, Holly and Felix, they actually like to script out their videos, which is weird because both of them are extreme non-planners. Because what we think of as planning, of like writing things beforehand, that's not planning in the way that we're thinking of it with OI or NI or SI or whatever. That's something completely different altogether. All right, anyway, part of OI is also knowing when to shut up. So I'll catch you guys next time.